My great pleasure now to introduce a good friend of mine personally and certainly of our district, Congressman James Coleman. Congressman Coleman proudly represents the 1st District of Kentucky in the United States House of Representatives. He serves constituents in 35 counties, spanning from western Kentucky to the south central portion of the Commonwealth, and held a town hall meeting in every county in the district during his first year in office. He is a member of the House Committees on Agriculture, Oversight and Government Reform, and Small Business. Congressman Coleman is an advocate for eliminating wasteful government spending, implementing business-friendly regulatory reform, and creating opportunities for Kentucky's deserving farmers. In 2018, he became the first Kentucky representative to sit on the Farm Bill Conference Committee in nearly 3 decades. Prior to serving in Congress, Congressman Coleman attended Western Kentucky University, majoring in agriculture. He then served 6 terms in the Kentucky State House and was the Kentucky Commissioner of Agriculture. Congressman Coleman still operates Coleman Family Farms in his hometown of Tompkinsville. He and his wife TJ have 3 children and are proud to call the 1st District of Kentucky his home. Let's welcome Congressman Jamie Coleman to the stage.
Thank you, Judge. It's great to be here with you all today. I was told I hadn't been to the Green River Area Development District office, so I said we were going to make that happen. But I want to remind you, I have 6 area development districts in my 35 counties. 6. That has to be a record. So we have the Pennyrile, Purchase, Green River, Barren River, Lake Cumberland, and Lincoln Trail. Every one of those ads is represented by multiple counties. The Lincoln Trail has 2. I have 2 counties in the Lincoln Trail. That's the smallest one, but I'm a big believer in the area development districts. I think it's great for all the area judges and mayors to get together each month, because the old business model for recruiting industry was, well, we're going to focus on our county versus the next county over, but the new business model is it's regional. You know, what's good for Webster County is good for Owensboro. What's good for Owensboro is good for McLean County, you know, and that's the way you have to look at it. And I believe that the area development districts are a great networking opportunity for the economic development directors and the local leaders to come together to try to focus on the things that are important. We're going to be in McLean County all day today. Amelia and I, we've got a busy day in McLean. I saw on the schedule I'm eating lunch at Subway. So, Judge, I'm going to order the most expensive thing on the menu and charge it to you. All right, good deal. That's good to know. But I see a lot of people in here that aren't from the 5 counties that I represent here. Obviously, Hancock and Davis County. Judge, I appreciate your friendship over the years. Judge Mattingly, I told the judge I spent last night at the Holiday Inn, which I've stayed there before, the Holiday Inn by the Convention Center. And as I woke up and walked out, I felt like I was in a big city, you know, just seeing all the nice development around the downtown area. This is a real success story. I know you took a chance when you built that convention center, but it's really amazing. I've stayed at that hotel 3 or 4 times over the years, and there's always something going on in that convention center. In fact, I stayed there a few months ago, and it was just full, and there were people walking around, and they were dressed unusual, and I said, what's going on? And it was the National Cornhole Championship. I thought, well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, the National Cornhole Championship in Owensboro. But I was asked to give a brief update of Washington, and I'm sure most people were watching the TV last week. There were a lot of things going on in Washington, but I'm not going to talk about that. I just wanted to focus on the things that I think we would all agree have happened that are helping the economy. If you watch TV, and most of you are in political office, so you know that sometimes our friends in the media don't accurately portray the reality of what's going on. And it looks like Washington's the most dysfunctional place in the world, which I will say there's a lot of dysfunction in Washington. I've been there a little over a year and a half. But there was a plan. And there was a plan by the administration and the Congress on day one to try to focus on growing the economy. Because I believe, and most people in Washington today believe, that we can solve a lot of our problems if we have more opportunities. Whether the problems are poverty, whether the problems are drugs, the breakdown of the family, a lot of the problems that plague every community, whether you're in a city or a small town, is dictated by the financial well-being. Doesn't solve every problem, but it helps. The more poverty you have, the more problems you have. So we want to focus on getting people out of poverty, not through government programs, but through a very prosperous, affluent economy that includes everyone. That doesn't just benefit the rich or the CEOs of the big companies. So we focused on trying to grow the economy three ways. First of all, reducing the regulatory burden that had plagued the private sector. When I was campaigning for Congress and I would talk to business owners and say, what's your biggest problem with Washington? I thought they would say taxes. But it wasn't taxes, it was the regulatory burden. And the coal counties, I don't need to tell you all, the regulatory burden that was just placed upon the coal industry, but also the financial services industry. If you're a community banker, you know what I'm talking about. If you're in healthcare, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, any manufacturing business, there were an excessive number of regulations that were holding the private sector back. So we tried to focus on passing a piece of legislation called the Congressional Review Act that Congressman Guthrie supported as well, that would give the administration the authority to look at the regulations that had been enacted by executive order and in some cases legislatively over the last decade. And the ones that are working, keep them in place. The ones that need to be tweaked, tweak them. And the ones that need to be outright eliminated, eliminate them. And we focused on that basically the first year, 2017. Then in December of 2017, we did the next thing. After we focused on regulations, we focused on taxes. We passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which significantly reduced taxes for everyone. And a lot of times on TV, they say, well, the rich benefited more than the poor. Well, the rich generally pay more taxes than the poor. But what I like to point out in my district, 81% of the people in my congressional district take the standard deduction. Only 19% do what I do and what I would say most people in this room do. We itemize our taxes. That's what I do. Itemize my taxes. I have a business and we take deductions and things like that. But the standard deduction is somebody that's got a W-2 and they just go to an H&R Block or they do it online themselves or they go to an accountant and file their taxes. Before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the standard deduction was $12,000, meaning you didn't pay federal taxes on the first $12,000 of your income. After the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that went to $24,000. So the first $24,000 of your income is tax-free on the federal level. We kept the child tax credits in there, and we kept the mortgage interest deduction. So there are a lot of working families that have a kid or two that have a mortgage on their house that probably aren't going to pay a penny of federal taxes this year. So that's 81% of the people in my congressional district. Then you take the 19% that do what I do and itemize their taxes, we significantly lowered the rates on individuals. So if they have a sole proprietorship, that's their tax rate. And on businesses, if they have an S corporation, a C corporation, an LLC, LLP, however it's set up. So I think that reducing the regulations and reducing the taxes really gave confidence back to the private sector. And then the last thing that we've talked about, that there were a lot of naysayers, was renegotiating the trade deals. Because I believe if you look at America and where is there room to grow, where are the forgotten parts of America? It's the rural counties. You know, you look at this map, most of those counties are very rural counties on there. I believe if we're going to have opportunities for the next generation of Kentuckians, of Americans, especially in rural America, we're going to have a renaissance in manufacturing. Good paying manufacturing jobs. Even for family farmers, which is something that I've always been identified with my agriculture background, most farmers aren't full-time farmers. Most farmers are part-time farmers, or most farmers have a spouse that works in town in a job with health insurance and things like that. Those jobs are disappearing in the rural areas, which in my opinion makes it harder for family farmers to farm than the price of commodities or anything. So if we're going to recruit industry and get good paying manufacturing jobs and have this renaissance in rural America, we have to have a fair trade agreement. We have to have free and fair trade. And what has happened with the old NAFTA agreement, it didn't recognize intellectual property. It didn't recognize patents. It was before the internet was a thing. And there were a lot of problems that businesses were encountering in America that was not included in NAFTA. And the president just announced last week they've renegotiated NAFTA, essentially modernized it, and essentially have a bilateral trade agreement between the United States and Mexico, the United States and Canada. But the one joint thing that they did that I think's been left out in the press is, moving forward, those three countries have to agree on a trade agreement with China. So it's given the president a significant amount of leverage in dealing with China, which is the real big problem that we have with America. So I believe we've got momentum now for the third phase of what we were trying to do with growing the economy, reducing the regs, reducing taxes, and renegotiating the trade agreements to where American manufacturing is on a level playing field. And when that happens, I think we're going to see growth in this country that we've never seen before. And I think that it's going to instill confidence in the risk takers, the business owners, to grow and expand their businesses, and for new businesses to make the investment. And I'm pretty bullish on the future of America right now. So that gets left out with all the chaos and the Kavanaugh hearings and who's going to win the election, is there a blue wave, is there a red wave, or whatever. So the message that I've been giving in this recess period we have till after the election is, I think that the goals that we set early on to grow the economy are working. And hopefully we can continue to grow the economy, and hopefully we can have the renaissance in rural America, because there are a lot of counties that haven't experienced this great economy. There are a lot of parts of Kentucky that they see on TV, the stock market going up, hitting record highs. They see the unemployment rates at record lows, but they don't really feel it at home. They're struggling to make ends meet. A lot of the mayors in the small towns I know, it's almost impossible to make ends meet because you don't have the growing revenue stream you need to take care of your water treatment plant, your sewer treatment plant, your law enforcement and things like that. So my goal is to see rural economic development in Kentucky. And I think that it's imperative that we get a new trade deal with China. I think what's been announced with Mexico and Canada will be very helpful. But at the end of the day, China is the big prize. And I think we've got a lot of momentum now heading into that. So I'm pretty optimistic about what's going on with the trade agreements, and I think that that'll be the final piece of the puzzle to focus on growing the economy. The next phase in this next Congress will be focused on things that I know are very important to the local leaders here, and that's infrastructure. That will be bipartisan. That will probably be the first real bipartisan thing you've seen happen in the Trump administration. Regardless of the outcome of the election, it's going to have to be bipartisan, and infrastructure is bipartisan. And hopefully there can be some progress on focusing on different parts of healthcare that we all agree are broken, namely the prescription drug prices, how expensive they are. So infrastructure, prescription drug prices, parts of healthcare, that'll be the focus moving forward into 2019. And if there's ever a time that I can be of any assistance to anyone in here, please let me know. We're very proud of the counties that we represent. Somebody said on the map, your district's very gerrymandered, and I said, yes, it's gerrymandered in a beautiful way, though. You know, just keep me out of Louisville. Just keep me out of Louisville. You can draw it any way you want. Keep me out of Louisville. But I love the first congressional district. It's, even though there are 6 congressional districts in Kentucky, that district is 1/3 of the state. It's 35 counties out of 120. It takes up 1/3 of the map. And you just would be hard pressed to find better counties in America than those counties. So I appreciate the opportunity to be the U.S. representative for the last year and a half, and hopefully I'll get to go back. And if there's ever anything we can do to help, please let me know. I think most people know Amelia Wilson, my field rep. Amelia's in charge of complaints, so if anybody has any complaints, see Amelia. If by chance anybody has any compliments, which I don't ever get, but if somebody did, you can tell me that. But Amelia's in charge of complaints, and she's gonna work me hard in McLean County today, and I'm gonna eat a big expensive Subway lunch on you, Judge, and we're gonna see some things. But again, thank you for the invitation to be here today. I appreciate what you do. I grew up in Tompkinsville, which is a very small town that's not growing. And I know the challenges that the judges, the magistrates, the city commissioners, and the mayors have every day to make ends meet in rural communities. But hopefully, we're doing some things in Washington that will give hope to the forgotten parts of America as we move forward and try to focus on growing the economy. And not just growing the economy in the urban and suburban areas and in the communities that have interstate exits and things like that, but focusing on a renaissance in rural America. That's my goal, and that's what I'm going to continue to try to do as long as I'm in Washington. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your attention.
Momentum. GRADD has just celebrated its 50th anniversary of existence, and this was a token that we gave at our dinner, and we want you to have one.
Thank
And
you.
you might drink that today at Subway.
I will. I'm going to get a double shot of Diet Mountain Dew there. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman.
I appreciate it.
Congressman's going to leave us, but we are